in terms of the authenticity that I crave, and I just can't work with projects that don't feel authentic to me.
Yeah.
I can't watch films that don't feel authentic to me. I have to make, let me put it to you this way. The difference between authenticity and mediocrity. An authentic film is a film that is based on real life human experiences.
Yeah.
Or humanized experiences. So whether it's a story about dogs or aliens, they'll still be given human characteristics. So when you watch an authentic film, you're like, that looks familiar, that looks familiar. I resonate with that. Now, a mediocre film is based on other films. Which is why it is just a cliche.
Hello everyone, my name is Marcus Babusel and welcome to another exciting episode of the Film Biz Show. A show where we delve into the industry's professionals' minds to discover their insights on the current landscape of film and TV in South Africa and internationally. Now, if you're tuning in for the very first time, we know you're gonna love this juicy episode. Please subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification button so you are aware of our future episodes that you will love so much. Now, today we're joined by a filmmaker whose passion was gained while on an entirely different continent. After being exiled to America, he came back and went to UCT to receive his honors degree in theater and performance, which gave him the tools to form his filmmaking career. He's acted, written, directed, and produced a multitude of content, and some of his notable projects include Muvhango, Rivanigo, Fong Kong Pastor, Made in Africa, Makeup and Cigarettes, and that's just naming a few. Of late, he was part of the 6 selected South African filmmakers to produce a film for the Netflix NFVF slate. And that film is in post. It's now getting ready for our screens. His production company has also just been given funding to work on a pilot for an upcoming TV show. Everyone, please, let's welcome Zwo Farasani.
Thank you, my good sir. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, brother.
I really appreciate the invite.
Thank you.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, but before we go too far, we'd like to know, obviously we have our conversations prior to the interview, but you did mention a lot about your acting and the background you had in performance. And do you feel like, that experience and your love for the craft of performance and acting how has it impacted your approach to the craft of directing?
Lovely question. I wouldn't be the director I am today if I wasn't first an actor. And I say this from a philosophical point of view. And that point of view is humanity.
Yeah.
I believe in treating people with love and respect. And I used to be acting, whether it was in drama school. When I started acting, it was in the theater. So I went and trained for theater. And what would happen when you're performing and you're working with a very high-strung director?
Yeah.
And they yell at you.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this industry, you will learn new swear words. I'm telling you,
my gosh.
Chief, they will belittle you.
Yeah.
And then they'll go action. It's like beep, action, and then you're expected to give a great performance, and you're shaking.
Yeah.
You're literally like, you're trembling. You don't know. It's like if someone comes and slaps you really hard and then says, go and give a speech.
No, you
like
can't.
you're still hearing quee. And that's how it was. And one thing I promised myself that once I start directing, I don't want to make my actors feel like that.
That's terrible.
I want to make them feel like they are invincible.
That's terrible.
I want to make them feel like they are the best actor to ever have acted in the world.
So true.
So yeah, that's
you actually taking me back to my days in drama school, and one of my friends who's doing phenomenally well right now as an actor, I think we were rehearsing something, and the director, who was actually a lecturer, was drunk. And the way this guy was swearing, like, that's rubbish, you're doing, nothing. And I'm like, and now this guy's an award-winning actor, who's totally taken over the industry.
Exactly.
And you're like, if that guy was more precious, he could have, unlocked this beautiful pearl. And in fact, that friend of mine eventually even dropped out of theater school, but it was his own particular journey. But man, definitely. That's something that I commend about you and your approach now. You are precious and you put love first.
That is with work, with life, man.
Yeah.
I don't like separating the two. I know a lot of people say you must separate your work life from your private life or your personal life. Let me rather say, I'm an artist. The work I'm doing is because I've lived the life I've lived.
Yeah.
That's my truth. So now I need to bring that truth to set as well.
So you don't believe in work-life balance?
Heck no.
Why?
I love work. I mean, obviously, I do believe in you must rest. Because I've had burnout at 28. I got hit with a mini stroke.
For real?
Yeah, for real. Like, I was working at another production company. Will not mention that name, Chief. And
we won't mention.
We know you. Trust you, me, we are not mentioning. Where's my close-up? But it was literally like, this guy worked us so hard. I remembered that period. I'd gone for 2.5 months working 7 days a week.
Oh my gosh.
And I only had 1.5 days break. So it was one day on a Sunday. I think we left the office around 5. And then the next time we had a full day off. Yeah. And then because of that pressure, I ended up getting a migraine for about 12 hours straight.
Sure.
And then eventually my sister came over because I thought I was gonna die. So I called my mother and I was like, please just pray for me, do final rites prayer. I'm out. Like, I'm not even at a point where I think if a paramedic, because it was like, it's.
How does it feel like to?
It feels like, man, because sometimes I'm like, I'm not scared of death. I'm not, dude, I was scared.
Yeah, but how was the sensation like of
migraine?
Yeah.
So your vision is down to about 30%.
Jesus.
It's not just a headache, but it's like the world is spinning consistently. You want to vomit. You're hot. You're shaking because of the pain. So it just.
And did you get any sympathy from the production company? Like, hey, let's.
Oh no, I'll tell you now. So, anyways, I end up because I just asked for medication. And there was a point where I was in such a bad state, I said, please call the fire department if I can't open the door. Or because there was a burglar proof and whatnot. So I literally was like, so when my sister saw me, she literally called up my mother and she's like, Zo's stubborn, please speak to him because he's not gonna want to go to hospital, but he's not in a state where meds can work. So took me to the hospital. And it's funny because now we're driving and she had said the hospital's gonna be on the left. Let me know when you see it so I drive in. Do we not miss the hospital?
Oh no.
And then I start crying because like, I can't see it. I can't see the hospital. And she had to make a U-turn and then we drove into the hospital. Like literally as soon as the nurse saw me, she's first goes like, here, fill out the form. She looks at me, she's like, go straight into the rooms. And then the other nurse, well, that's the receptionist. They call in a nurse, she starts doing stuff on me, putting, I don't know, like this electronic stuff, wiring and everything. And I'm still speaking with her. And because I'm literally dying, but I'm cracking jokes. And after 2 minutes, there was a point because she's laughing at my jokes. I don't know if they were funny, but she was kind. So she's laughing at my jokes there. After 2 minutes, this little machine goes beep, 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 beep. She runs out the room. I'm like, what? And she didn't laugh at my joke. That was my first sign that something's wrong. Because I was like, I'm really funny. For someone to not laugh at my jokes, like,
it means it's a serious situation.
It's a serious situation, code red, bro.
Yeah.
And then she runs out the room. Doctor runs back in, and he's like, how's your left side? And my response was, my left side is fine.
Oh no.
And then I can't
Oh,
time.
no.
And I was like, what's going on? And he's like, you're having a stroke. So they gave me medication. I was out in seconds. And then, funny enough, I had a meeting at 1:30 that day. It was in the morning in town. So I get up and I ask the doctor, what time is it? He's like, it's 12. I was like, I need to go to a meeting. He's like, you are not going anywhere for a very long time. And I was like, no, but they need me at work. And then he was like, I'm putting it off for a minimum of 2 weeks. By Thursday, it was a Monday. By Thursday, the production office said you have to come in. So I was driving like this because my vision was at 30% for 2 whole weeks. And I was like, I can't see the laptop. So they said, we'll get you a PA for you to dictate and she'll type. So I was sick for probably about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks.
Oh, man.
And so I was still going to work.
Oh man, that's terrible. I mean, it's a testimony to the kind of contracts that we sign. We literally sign our lives away in some of these contracts, and there are some labor laws that do protect us, but you find that because you are a creative and you feel like you've been given a chance. You don't want to speak out because you need this job. You don't know the rights that you have and what's backing you.
Exactly.
I remember a story a few years ago where an actor died off of a cliff. You remember that?
I heard that one.
Heartbreaking. And that guy actually, I think he was an IT professional and he had a love for acting. And he finally got his break.
No.
He finally got his break and he was acting in a film and they asked him to do something that would jeopardize his life. And I've been in situations like that where you're like, no, I'm the passionate guy. Don't worry, we'll get this. And that can cost your life, We're not kind of, we don't value ourselves enough in situations like that. And now, like in hindsight, now that you're more experienced, and I'm sure you've learned so much about yourself and human beings and colleagues and the game that we're in, this business, how would you have approached that? If you were exploited the same way you were back then, today, what would you say to, the big boss?
I would have said, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can stand for your rights, but your rights are also financial.
Yeah.
And if you say, I'm not coming, and they fire you, and now you get kicked out of your flat, that's a very different struggle. And we are told, or let me put it this way, we live in a country with such a high unemployment rate. And as high as the unemployment rate is, I would love to see the stats of filmmakers who are unemployed. And the difference with a doctor or a teacher or most other professions, when you get employed, it's most of the time permanent.
Yeah.
With us, it could be for a week.
Yeah.
It could be for 6 months. Unless you're literally in South Africa working on a telenovela or a soapy, you spend most of your time unemployed.
So true. I was telling a friend who's like a professional, works a 9 to 5. I'm like, okay, look at you in your life. The most you'll go, for interviews and look for a job, maybe maximum would be 10 times or 15 times before you retire. I do that. Looking for a job is a part of my job. You know what I'm saying? Or even while I'm working, I'm looking for a job. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So many people don't really understand that. And I think also as a creative, and I want to talk about this because we've touched on the fatigue that comes with pushing so hard and being pushed like a workhorse unfairly. The importance of embracing the quiet seasons and taking on the rest. You know, I used to be so frustrated. Oh, I'm not working, but this is when I'm rebuilding my energy for the next thing, and I know it's gonna come. I no longer, you're no longer like, I need work. Someone hire me. No, it's gonna come. Relax. Just work on yourself. So how do you take that? That do you prioritize rest as opposed to before, or because you seem like someone who just keeps on going, the gift that keeps on giving.
So let me give this example. A lot of people have to go to their place of residence in order to feel at home. Me, I step in front of the camera. I step on a set and I am home. I find my peace in filmmaking. But granted, let me also say that it doesn't mean that one must overwork themselves, which I don't anymore. I think nowadays, after this production, I think there are a couple people who might call me lazy.
You're a smart worker, not a hard worker.
But because, I was told in drama school by this head of department, he said, the director has one job, only one job, and that is to talk. Granted, you need to know what you're saying, but that's all you do is you talk. You're not setting up the lights. You're not doing this. When you're directing actors, you talk to them. When you do this. So going back to what I do when I haven't been working, because even like this year has been very quiet because we've been doing post.
Yeah.
So post, as the director, I'm not there all the time. Like in my edits, I always sit in my edits. I mean, this is about writing. Why am I talking about directing? But anyways, as a writer, I have been rejected, in all honesty, over 150 times.
Jesus.
I'm talking about from 2007, when I started sending out scripts. From South African production companies, international production companies, because I always felt like I tell global stories. Those are the only ones I'm able to tell. I'll even give you this example. I'd done a film for a certain broadcaster. I'd done 2 films for them. I really didn't like any of the films. They were those low budget ones,
Yeah.
But what happened in that month is it's one of those broadcasters who do a lot of TV films. Yeah. I don't know if there's 2 broadcasters
got
who do
an
that.
idea.
Yeah, so you got an idea. So it's literally like we do these films and they gave me such a tough time. And we went to war. Like I remember we had a meeting for 3 hours.
Sure.
I've never seen, don't think I've been in a meeting where more swear words were passed.
Wow.
Like yelling and screaming and whatnot.
What was the problem? What was the actual issue?
No, my creative choices. Because I always take risks. When I do art, I am vulnerable. And you can't be vulnerable without taking a risk. I don't want your art if it's not vulnerable. And that means it's gonna be vulnerable emotionally. I want your shots to be vulnerable. And to be vulnerable, you're doing things that other people haven't done before. So they were like looking at this and like, no, we've never seen something like this. I remember there were even points where I had like an opening sequence, which was cutting between, I think, 3 or 4 scenes. Like people were gambling, people were gambling on the street. So it's like a busy street scene. So I had like people playing dice. I had other people trying to rob people, and we keep cutting between those 3 stories. And that at the end of whatever, the climax of that, then the title of the film comes on.
Sure.
So I was like, and they were like, no, the title of the film must come on. One scene must finish. The next scene must finish. The next scene.
Very
and I was
frustrating.
like, we've seen that before. And why must people sit down for things that they've seen before? So, but anyways, I ended up winning that argument. The films get released. And in that month, next thing, the broadcaster is emailing me, oh my gosh, the only 2 TV films that made it into the top 20 viewership that month.
Wow.
Like it was now, and then they come to me and they're like, okay, so we want more scripts. We want more. I was like, of course you want more scripts. And then they were like, yeah, because you're vendor, can we get something it's about witchcraft.
Mm.
I'm like,
Where do people get that? Like,
being Venda and witchcraft?
No.
I'm telling you.
This is terrible.
Like, I'm like, okay. It's as good as saying an American coming to you and saying, since you're from Africa, give us a film about lions and giraffes. And that's the stereotypes. I always say, like, there are a lot of South Africans who look at Venda and Tsongas as the same way Americans look at South Africans.
So true.
So there are people who get to Venda and they're shocked to see mansions. I'm like, dude, you have mansions.
And that's the home of mansions, yo.
Dude,
mansion after mansion after mansion.
Just because they're rural, it don't mean those people don't have money.
No.
Those people are balling and
they've got a good sense of entrepreneurship. They've got a good sense of, they almost work like the Jews, you know. There's an economy amongst them. They exchange is very, very brilliant. But I want to touch on your global outlook in terms of creating your art. You know, because of, and I'm assuming it's because of your background, the fact that you grew up in exile and that gave you a global perspective in terms of stories.
Definitely.
You know, can we just touch on, you know, how it happened that you grew up in the States? Or, you know, was it the States that you did? I mean, what happened, you know, and how old were you when you left South Africa?
Okay. My parents were freedom fighters. Yeah. And so what happened is that my dad got arrested on 4 different occasions. Ended up going to 14, and he was in Venda. Ended up in 14 different prisons and police stations, including John Foster Square right here. And I've mentioned John Foster Square because I remember driving past it now on my way here. And I'm sitting in my Uber and I'm like, I've never visited this place. I want to go see the cell my dad was in. I want to see where he was at when they threatened to throw him off. And I get it, they would throw people off and say they committed suicide. Even like this Timol guy, where they just won the case. So it was a very...
Ahmad Timol.
Yeah, thank you.
Love that,
So it was, we were a very politicized family.
Yeah.
So after the 4th arrest, I remember when they arrested my father, the police said to him, this is the last time we're arresting you. So you're not coming back after this arrest. Fortunately, what had happened is a few days, 1 day, 2 days before the police came, because they came at night, and they came wearing pastor's robes, 3 of them. And because my dad's a pastor by trade. So they came wearing pastor's robes and carrying Bibles. And they came and knocked on our door and said, no, they want to see the pastor. And my parents had a bad feeling, so like, no. Little did we know that there was about 15 to 30 special, what do they call them? Special
forces
branch.
Yes.
Even in the trees with AK-47s pointed at our door. So they wanted to assassinate him at night. So what had happened is the postmaster of Venda had secretly connected a phone line through to my parents' bedroom, which they didn't know about because it was only, 48 hours before. So my parents ended up barricading themselves into their bedroom and went under the bed and started making phone calls. So the police knew that our main phone was in the office. So they were like, to get to the office, you have to pass the sitting room. So they knew we weren't making phone calls. Little did they know, my parents were calling their white friends. There's this other doctor who helped to save my life when I was still a baby. His name is Dr. Tavernier, like amazing individual. So he's a Dutch doctor from the Netherlands. So they were calling all their white friends because they knew in the time of apartheid, if you just got a group of black people, they're gonna get shot with you. But they were like, if he's Dutch national, they'll never shoot him. So they brought in, so he called in another Dutch friend, and then they called in another doctor, Ramasuba, who's our family doctor from Venda, very loving man. And eventually there was like a huge crowd surrounding my house from the police. And once morning came, my father put on his robes, put on his cross, carried his Bible, and he handed himself over to the police. And as the convoy is leaving, my grandmother threw herself in the road.
Oh my God.
And told them, take me, don't take my child. And my dad says that is the most painful experience of his entire life. Seeing those police just drag her off while she was sobbing like a child.
My goodness.
And they went, and because now we'd garnered international attention, they didn't kill him, but they tortured him to a point where he had to spend 100 days in hospital. And when my eldest sister saw him for the first time, she said, that's not my daddy. Where's my father? And she was crying. And my dad was like, that broke him. So the international community, it was Amnesty International, the Lutheran Church, I believe even the UN got together and told my family, now you guys have to leave the country. So because Venda at the time was a homeland, you couldn't get, its visa doesn't work. So they ended up getting us out the country on, I think, UN visas or something. And it was funny, that night that we drove out, the police knew we were leaving. So they set up a roadblock, and there was only one road from my village through, back in the day, there's only one road to Joburg. So they, in the village, still on the dirt road, they left police there waiting for us. Said our prayers. My dad was already out the country. It was my mother and the children who were leaving now with like family and friends. And when you leave to get onto the tar road in my village, it goes down, then it comes up. We said a prayer before we left the house. We get onto that road, we drive down. As we come up, we see the police cars waiting, and the car lights just hit them. And we're like, okay, it's over. Little did we know that the police were fast asleep. Their mouths were open. And we were like, thank you, God. We hit the road, got to Joburg, got onto the plane. And then we started our journey. And that was 1987. And we stayed in California, close to Berkeley, in a little first in Berkeley, then in a little suburb called El Cerrito. And what was very fortunate is that I went to a Montessori school, which exposed us to a lot of things as a young child. And we were right next door to UC Berkeley. We used to do field trips to UC Berkeley. So I was literally going to an Ivy League college as a child. Experiencing when they'd have events, you're experiencing them. So it just opens up your mind to realize that as human beings, if you're unhappy, you have a choice for so much more. This world is so much bigger. And guess what? You are worth it. You are valuable enough to go and experience that.
Yeah, man. That's really
sorry
powerful.
for that sermon. Anyways.
No, it's really, really powerful. Like it really hits a note, because so many creatives are unhappy. And I think it's heartbreaking that we're bleeding so much great talent. And at times, because the terrain that side is not so easy, it's very difficult to navigate. Only a few manage to go there and just get it like that. Even some actors, which are, who are very renowned here locally, they'll go there, do a gig or two, but it's difficult to break in.
Very.
So, but for like in your instance, obviously now you had to come back. You did your education in Cape Town, UCT. You've got a phenomenal drama department. I respect them, and especially I'm sure in the generation in which you were in, they still had that quality. Not saying that they don't have it now. I don't want to say anything, but
UCT, I have nothing to do with this.
Neither do
because
I.
Some of my former classmates are lecturers now.
Maybe
I see you, Mfundo.
but now being exposed to such an open-minded society in terms of storytelling, who are willing to also, I've noticed with Western audiences, they want the real truth of who we are. And that truth makes our stories global. But when we're here, there's a sense of compromising who we are or stereotyping. How are you navigating? How do you, just explain that dynamic?
Hey. My script editor for this film we worked on, she was the second script editor I worked on who I really loved working with.
Yeah.
The first one was this other white lady. I forgot her name. Such a sweet woman. But she let me get away with too much. Like, we used to go out for coffee and she was just like, every time she'd give me feedback like, so if you can still keep it the way you want it, but if you want to do it like this. So I was just like bulldozing my way through, no, it's my idea, whatnot. But we got along really well. And it was an amazing, she's a very talented woman. I take nothing away from her. But working with Thandeka from Indigenous Films, who was my script editor. I have never, now look here, I'm a very, very stubborn person. Hey, except for this past film, I lost so many battles.
Shame, man.
It was humbling. But normally, when I used to work, because we work for so many production companies. Yeah. Like, I remember there was an instant where we used to call Tuesday Zwo Day, me and my friends.
Why?
Because we would literally like go to a bar or a restaurant and tell them, SABC 1 at 7, that's a show. SABC 2 at 8, that's a show. So I had 3 shows on Tuesday running concurrently.
My goodness.
So, and people were like, you directed that? You wrote that? I was like, yeah.
You were rolling it.
I was, dude. There was a point where I was doing 5 jobs at once.
Cool.
There's one time I drove to set in Venda on one day, woke up the next morning, worked the whole day till we wrapped at like 6, did meetings till 9, left Venda at 9. By 3 a.m., I was passing Midrand. I was taking water and pouring it on my face because I was passing out. Like, it was bad. And the friend who came with me, because I'd done about 7, 8 trips to Venda in that month, he comes and he says, no, Zo, I'm going to come and help you drive. Dude slept the whole trip, man.
Wow.
And I was like, and I'm like, just the nigga, I'm like, the heart's in the right place.
A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Exactly. But anyways, back to the point, authenticity. What this script writer said, Thandeka Zwana, she said this beautiful thing to me. In my first draft, she said, Zo, your script is authentic. I mean, it's authentic, meaning that it feels real. Now, I want you to go back and cry before you write a single line. Once you cry, I want you to then write from a place of vulnerability, because a vulnerable script exposes you. It exposes your soul.
Yeah.
So I went and I did this because it's a film about relationships and heartbreak and everything. And I did this really, really painful exercise. I went back and I thought to myself, who's the love of my life? Who's the one that got away in my life? So I think and I think and I think, and then I find her. And I was like, okay, cool, that's the girl. I go to Insta. I put in her name. She has a family now, married, but not in love with her, don't worry. But I needed to do this for the exercise. So she's married with children. So what I did, I go to Instagram and I visualize now. I look at her and I visualize myself in those picture situations with her.
Instead of the husband.
So if they're taking a picture in Greece, I go for 30 minutes meditating on how did we plan Greece? What did we do? What did we think? Who put the children in the back seat? All of that. And then I had her leave me. And then I came back and I left that history.
So wait, so in your visualization, she leaves you.
She leaves me and I needed that.
Okay.
So when I was done the next day, I remember calling my mom. And I was like, I'm so sad. I don't know why. And I'm driving. And then, because I take drives sometimes when I'm really feeling sad. So I just go to the shopping center. It was at night, like past 8. I take a walk around it. And then I get back into the car and I start crying. And I was like, flip, it's because of that exercise I did. Because the character in my script, in that story, gets left. So I did the exercise and had her leave me in that, because I had to feel the love. So if anyone can make any type of film. I'm not here to tell people what types of film they must make, because I think every type of film has its market and there are people who crave for it.
That's true.
I'm not a big fan of reality, but it's not like I'll go home and while my sisters are watching the Kardashians, switch it off. I'm not gonna tell a friend of mine who's like, oh, a reality series, I'm shooting this. Hey, should I shoot it? And I'll say, no, it's not creative. I'm like, dude, go get your money.
Boom.
Go get your money, dude, because we all
do what you gotta do.
There ain't no thing called reality TV money or
money.
Drama money. Dude, they don't care when you're paying rent, installment.
No.
There's no such. We make money wherever. If you see me making reality TV, dude, don't be like, Zo, I saw you on that thing, nigga. Dude, times are tough, chief. That film we made didn't work out, dog. So I need to be shooting here, housewives of Pulukwane. So leave me alone. But anyways, in terms of the authenticity that I crave, and I just can't work with projects that don't feel authentic to me. I can't watch films that don't feel authentic to me. I have to let me put it to you this way. The difference between authenticity and mediocrity. An authentic film is a film that is based on real life human experiences. Or humanized experiences. So whether it's a story about dogs or aliens, they'll still be given human characteristics. So when you watch an authentic film, you're like, that looks familiar. That looks familiar. I resonate with that. Now, a mediocre film is based on other films, which is why it is just a cliche. Let me give you an example. You're a well-traveled man. You've been to airports, you've been to train stations, bus stations. How many times have you been in an airport and seen a guy sprinting down past security and through the boarding gates to go and propose right before his wife leaves right before the love of his life leaves for another country?
In real life?
In real life.
Never.
Do you know what the security is going to do to him? Imagine it all out.
They will hold the guy, they will hit him, they will turn him around.
By the time you get to your wife, you will be on the floor, bleeding. You will be bleeding.
And how many films have you seen?
How many films have you seen at the end of the story? No, right before she goes, I love you, Sally. And you're like, what is this based on? It is based on this writer having seen another film that happened in, that who saw another film that happened in as well. But it's not based on the human experience.
But what happens, brother? What happens now, especially in this climate that we're in? And we've seen it many a times, and you know, it's the streamer owns the right to this concept. They've done it somewhere in Puerto Rico. They're like, okay, this works. Successful couple, middle-aged, you know, nearing their 50s, get bored of each other. Wife sees a young guy, falls in love with a young guy, love triangle. But it's literally, you take this concept, you plant it here, put it in the South African context, and it works. And then we've seen it also with Bettina Way too, and Ugly Betty and so on and so forth. But, you know, so clearly, you know, they're able to score those numbers and business as usual. So, I mean, why you and me, guys who are passionate about film crying, you know, the suits are making money, man.
No, the thing
Let's jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, mediocre films, don't get me wrong. Mediocre films are usually very successful.
Yeah.
Because they're tick
By the way,
box.
I'm not calling anyone mediocre.
No. I am, but I'm not naming people. I'll name them off camera. But at the end of the day, I always understand that as filmmakers, we all can't do the same thing. Not everyone can make authentic films. There's certain people who don't want to watch authentic films. Yeah. They'll tell you, I love seeing that, and it makes them cry. So who are we to judge them? So I don't judge. You watch reality, I'm happy I can still be your friend. I can still respect you. So I'm not putting us on a pedestal and everyone else like, oh, higher art, and yes, let's talk about Stransky and Kubrick, and yeah, so it's for me, je ne sais pas. This much results.
Showing off your French there. But it's just a quick one. I mean, now with your history and your foundation in theater, how has that discipline informed your approach to filmmaking?
It is the foundation. Yeah. I wouldn't be the filmmaker I am today if I didn't start in theater.
Yeah.
Why? Performance.
So true.
A lot of times in film, you don't rehearse. You get there in TV. Boom. I've never done a TV show where they rehearse you. You get there, you can even get the script that morning. Emails at 4:55. Ding, did you get it? And then you have to learn the lines on your way to work, and then
find your little corner with your cast members.
Exactly.
But there's one production company, or 70 kind of. What's the name of the production? How could I forget? Sorry, I forgot the name of the production.
No, it's all right.
But I worked for them. And they are the only production company. I heard also Benelandes implements it. In the morning, the whole cast must be there. Wow. And we are there lined up in one room.
Wow.
Marcus, it's your scene with so-and-so. And then you must know your lines in the morning.
Yes, thank you.
And then boom. They block rehearsals. Next scene, everyone is there watching everyone. And then, okay, bye-bye. If your call is at 2:00 and you were there at 7:30, you can drive, go back home. You'll come back at 2:00 to shoot.
Thank you.
And that, for me, that was excellence. But we don't do that. And it's because the Afrikaans fraternity is very much entrenched within theater. We don't know, they've got all these theater festivals over and above the National Arts Festival. Kaka and all that stuff. All that's for real.
It's a real name.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a swear word.
Kans, wat and wat. Yeah, it says like but that's the name, and there's a one in Bloemfontein. But it's because they're so entrenched in theater, they literally implement it when it comes to this. But I think also maybe they've got the leverage of budgets. I don't know, because we're always so squeezed, man. We always feel like, thank you for the job. We'll do the best with whatever we can, But yeah.
Well, I mean, I know with the budgets and everything, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people don't rehearse. But I'm going to take it further and say, I have never done a production where I didn't rehearse. I have done shoestring short films, and we would still rehearse for a day or two.
How do you work that process out? What happens? You call the cast on a separate
I call
day.
the cast and I say, favor, man. We don't have budget to pay you for the rehearsals. We'll feed you. But then again, and we say this before we cost you, because it's like, dude, I have 10 cents to pay you. But this 10 cents includes rehearsal. If you can't do it and you want more for rehearsals, then we have to move on to someone else. But I've realized with real artists, they will do it.
Always.
Like, once you work with a real artist, and then if they're just a celebrity, whatnot, they're gonna be like, if I ain't getting paid, I ain't gonna do that. Because I know, I have friends who have asked me to come and work or do something for them for free, and I've done it. I mean, granted, I don't do no more.
But you're selective, right? I mean, you even for me, like to this day, there's some projects, special projects. I was like, okay, I'll go on this. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of networking opportunities, or there's equity in the film that I can have in exchange for a salary, and the money you get on the long term is way more than what you would have earned there.
And that's you have to open up your mind and think of things as investments. When I did soap operas once, because I was crazy about doing a soap opera, My investment was getting my face out there, getting my face on the screen. And it feels really good. Like when someone comes up and recognizes you and asks for, like, I don't get when people are like, oh my gosh, I hate it when, dude, people are showing me love. Why should I like reject love? Man. I love love, man. So it's really, for me, it was an investment. That's how I looked at it.
So essentially, I mean, it's those choices that you make as a creative, you know, to say, you know, which jobs you take and which ones, you know, you don't. But so now you and your sister Ndamo have a production company named Farasani Creation. She works on more of the producing side while you work more on the creative side, right? What goals do you guys have for the company and in the bigger landscape of, you know, the industry and this business? Obviously, every company has signature stories that they want to tell. What role do you think you guys play within this landscape? What kind of stories do you want to be remembered for?
Very good question. I love it because it speaks to purpose. So I'm going to answer it this way. In America, a company is a human being.
Yeah.
So that when they do fraud and stuff, CEOs can't get taken to prison. In South Africa, a company is an inanimate object.
Meaning?
It has no life. So the company is its people. So what legacy do we want Farasani Creations to have? Let me preface it by saying this. We live in a world of hurt people. And hurt people hurt people.
Yes, sir.
I myself am dealing with so much trauma, from childhood bullying to work bullying to heartbreak. So the purpose we want our work to do is to heal. We want to heal the world, but before we heal the world, we need to heal the continent. But before we heal the continent, we need to heal the country. But before we heal the country, we need to heal the community. But before we need to heal the community, we need to heal the family. But before we heal the family, we need to heal the individual. And that is what our work is about. And in this film we made, it's about relationships and the traumas that we put each other, or just the issues we put each other in relationships. And why we started with relationships was because I believe that relationships are and love relationships. I don't mean just relationships, love relationships. I feel they're so important in terms of healing because that's where we get hurt the most, where you can get potentially hurt the most. With free will comes vulnerability. So I am vulnerable to my lover. But I am not vulnerable to my parents because whatever I do, they're still my mom, they're still my dad, they're still my sisters, but she may not always be my wife.
That's true.
So that is what makes the difference. So vulnerability comes fear, and fear comes more fear. And then she's maybe with another guy. Maybe she's then, oh, where's the bottle? Here, where's the gun? Oh,
Yes.
God. Quit, sorry. Not to make a suicide
Where's
joke.
the rope?
Dude, exactly. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where is the close-up? I suffer from depression, so I got really dark humor. I'm not trying to joke about it, but yeah, I'm a chronic depression. Yes, I don't know what the word is.
So, brother, we've reached the tail end of our interview. Wow,
Yes.
This has been just a mind-blowing experience, man. You've got so much. We have so much to talk about, and
Thank
we
you.
definitely need to have you back on the show.
Please, no, I can't. If I'm a big star once this film comes out, it's over.
Yeah, no.
I'm changing my numbers.
Hey,
Changing my house.
start again.
Dude, getting new friends.
Don't do that now. We need you,
Nah,
brother.
of course, brother.
But
Of
definitely,
course, brother.
we would love to
let me know.
to have you back, especially closer to the date of the release of the film.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'd love to come to the premiere.
Oh, that'd be great.
And we'd like to be part of the process
That would
of
definitely.
really releasing this film to the world.
Hey, what's like a suit chief?
We will, don't worry. Yeah.
Yes.
But just one question, man. What is your all-time favorite South African film?
Sarafina.
The reason being?
We talked about authenticity in the beginning. And I think a challenge that I have had working in South Africa is a lot of people I've worked with have tried to stifle my creativity.
Yeah.
So when I take a risk, they're like, no, don't do it. No, don't do it. No, don't do it. When you direct, 3 shots, wide, close up. People come into the room, they sit, they finish the conversation, one gets up and leaves, camera tracks into that other one, angry about what just happened. And that's the only shots. Zarfina, for me, they took risks. Even if you just think of that jail scene, and they whipped us. And the cameras just panic. When was the last time?
Yeah.
Like, we don't get it. Like, as a filmmaker, I'm like, there are some really amazing shots there. When Crocodile's getting killed and he's running in slow motion, they were taking risks there. So I appreciate the risks that Sarafina took. And for me, I just believe, like, if we as South Africans want our films to go global on a serious note, and I mean global commercially, where people in the US are like, boom, you're getting that Hollywood money, you're gonna have to tell global stories in a global way. Which means, and what's the difference between global and local? Local is when I have to understand your local culture to understand the motivation of your film. Global is when I have to just understand human beings. So you can make a global love story. Like, I'm a cis man, so I'm a straight man.
Yeah.
But I cried in Moonlight.
Yeah.
Because I might not love men, but I know what love feels like. I might not be a gangster, but I know what pain and loss feels like.
So true.
So if we want to hit the global market, make films that someone doesn't need to specifically understand these specific things. We're not saying you can't crack a few local jokes here and there. I mean, I had a few jokes about local things which no one outside of South Africa will understand. Like, if I can crack a load shedding joke in a film, some people won't get it. That's fine. But are they still following the emotional arc of the story? That's the biggest thing you need to ask yourself.
But I guess that's the difference between, I mean, I've seen some great movies, Tsotsi being one of them, very, very specific to the South African landscape, but it having a very universal appeal. Another one, Apocalypto, that's a phenomenal. That was all subtitles.
Subtitled and not even in Spanish.
Yes, in Anka, in that language. Yes. And we still could tap into that spirit, right?
We can tap into fear.
It's true.
Because that was the theme. What is your theme? Make your theme global. Make it something that anyone, they don't need to have the same private parts as you. They don't need to love the same type of people you do. They don't need to speak the same language as you.
True.
But if they can recognize that feeling, they will follow your emotional journey.
So true. So true. Brother Zor, we'd like to thank you so much for this invigorating conversation. It's been both enlightening and entertaining. I believe there's so much in store from you. We as a country, as a continent, as a people, we are going to benefit a lot from your creative energy. So my only prayer for you is may you grow, may you build, and may more things come in store. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my good sir. I am so grateful for this opportunity to have this beautiful conversation with you. You're great at what you do.
Thank you.
And yeah, I just really appreciate all of the love that all of the crew and everyone and you. So, because I love Shem. I really love love. I love being around loving people. And it's a choice, guys. It's a choice.
That's it. Thank you for the lessons, brother.
You're welcome. That'll be $4.99.
And we'd like to say thank you to Fortunewell, the Magic Lightbox company, as well as the Dynamic Workspaces for sponsoring this episode. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for following us.